Okay, final feelings for Georgia and Notre Dame, the All-State Sugar Bowl here in New Orleans. It's going to be a pretty big fight between these two. Obviously, the winner looks. I don't. I'm watching. It's at the half of Penn State and Boise, and that's been a pretty sloppy game so far. I would think the winner of this game in New Orleans would probably win in that matchup. But let's talk about this game first. Um, you know, a lot of this is going to come down to how well Gunnar Stockton plays. Yes. But at the same time, it's going to be really about Tate Ratledge, Dylan Fairchild. I mean, Truss, all those guys, they're going to matter a lot. Wilson, Freeland, all those guys. It's going to be about this. Is going to be about big guys playing, and are you winning your battle or battles or not? Because if that doesn't happen, I think it's asking too much of Gunnar Stockton to come in and save the day. I mean, it's just that's asking a lot. Secondly, I talked about this in Final Feelings over on Dog Post. If you're not a member, make sure you're signing up to our newsletter. The link is right down below. But I mean, look, the thing about it is this is the time at which Georgia's defense should play well. I mean, this is a good Notre Dame offense. They have explosive parts like most college football teams. This is not 2002 or 2022 Ohio State, probably not 2000. This is not 2022 Ohio State. It's certainly not 2002 Ohio State. Just flinging the ball all over the place. CJ Stroud in 22. That's not what they're going up against. They're going up against a Notre Dame team that is a good team that has parts that are really effective. You've got a quarterback that's, good. But this is a game Georgia should win. I mean, I don't think it's certain that they should win, but it's a game they should win. And I think it's mainly because of Georgia's defense more than anything. Now, let's not forget, Georgia's down a starting quarterback and a starting punter. Notre Dame is down probably their best interior defensive lineman. I wouldn't be too pumped up about that going up against this Georgia team that seems to just now be getting its legs in the run game. I mean, that's not been great this season. And then they ran effectively against Texas in the SEC championship game. I think they ran effectively enough against Tech, Tennessee. At this as the season's gone on, and you've gotten ETN going, you've gotten Frazier going, and now you've got the fear of a read option. What is Gunnar Stockton going to bring to the game? I mean, if Gunnar has 40 or 50 yards rushing, that could be a lot. And that could be a not great situation for Notre Dame. On the flip side, when you start thinking about the Notre Dame's quarterback, you Georgia starts letting him go for 50, 60, something like that yards. That's a problem. So let's just see how this goes. I mean, I think more than anything, if you're expecting Gunnar to come in and be something he's not, you're making a mistake. He's got to be who he is. That means a controlled passing game and read option. It's going to have to be the guys up front. And as well, the tight ends are going to matter a lot more probably than they did in the past. That doesn't mean you don't take shots with Arian Smith. It doesn't mean you don't use Dylan Bell in any number of ways that you can. He's a Swiss Army knife. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can do here. The Georgia defense just can't get, knocked back, can't do all those things. I thought Indiana hung in there with Notre Dame. They were clearly not better than Notre Dame. And the Irish, you know, proved that over time. This Penn State Boise game is sloppy, full of penalties. Neither team really looks what I would call good. Again, a lot of penalties, holding, personal fouls, false starts. The special teams are rough around the edges. So it's all right there for Georgia. And then the other thing too, I talked about on the site. Kirby and them have coached in three national championship games. They've coached in, I don't know how many, I guess it's three semifinals, countless SEC championship games. They've played, just factually speaking, they've played higher ranked teams multiple times this year than what Notre Dame is. This is the biggest game Notre Dame has played probably since the season opener. Now, I say that the Indiana game was obviously a bigger, I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it was a huge game, but this is a little bit ratcheted up because of who you're dealing with, which is Georgia. And this is the best team that is the best program, not the best team. I don't, I don't know if it's the best team. I mean, they played the 22 Ohio State team, if I'm not mistaken. They lost like 24 to 10 or something like that. Like that Ohio State team in 22, they're better than this Georgia team right now. But that's not what, we're not in 2022. We're in 24 for the next couple of hours. And, in that case, this is going to be a challenge for Notre Dame. I think we should be allowed to say that out loud. And they are definitely dealing with injuries. I mean, Georgia's got injuries to their starting quarterback. That's not good. The starting punter, that's not good either. The guy was an All-American basically. But Notre Dame's got some challenges on the defensive side of the ball, and if and when, let's just say if Georgia effectively runs the football, it's going to be hard for Notre Dame to slow them down because it may just be that they say, you know what, we're not going to let the gunner like decide this game one way or the other. We're going to run the ball, try to run it effectively, and then take it from there. I think the way that Gunner played against Texas was very, very good. The one mistake was almost cost him the game. It didn't. But we've seen Carson play really poorly sometimes this year, and Georgia still win. Okay, played pretty bad, relatively speaking. He played bad against Florida. He certainly played bad against Texas in the first time, as it relates to the statistics. He just was not super productive. He didn't play great against Texas the second time, but he wasn't costing them the game or anything like that. But I think the things that's changed here the most is Trevor Etienne. I mean, Georgia has not had him, and as good at. I mean, so you listen to people talk, and which is part of what I do for a living. But everybody's got their view of who the best defense is. One week people are talking about, "Oh, Georgia's got the best defense," and then people talking about Texas, and Notre Dame is in that discussion. Indiana was in that discussion. I think the difference between everybody in Georgia, and this is just what it is, they've just not played what Georgia's played. That doesn't mean that they're not better. We just know more about Georgia. Um, for Notre Dame, you know, I had no fear of who was going to win the Army Notre Dame game. Like there was just no confusion in my world. As far as Indiana was concerned, I would have had to see them lose to Indiana to believe it. Forget the Northern Illinois game. Like people are focusing way too much on that. Like that's that's like bringing up the Alabama game with Georgia. I mean, like those are not even the same. Like we're not in that universe anymore. It's gone. And Alabama, quite obviously, not a 10-win team this season. Probably not a top 15 team. They didn't do what they had to do to get to the playoff. And did they deserve it? Did they earn it? I don't know, but they're not there. And the note. And I just wanted to spell one other thing. The notion that Alabama would have gotten in and won, we don't know that. And I don't think the loss to Michigan today disproves that. But I, Notre Dame's gotten here, and they've earned it to this point for sure. But what Georgia's dealt with, it's not going to necessarily. I mean, it doesn't put points on the scoreboard tomorrow, or today when you're watching this. So you know, I think people, is Georgia going to execute? And can Georgia do enough to Notre Dame to where they don't execute a lot? Against Indiana, it's what struck me really was there were, I think, two big plays in the game, but a lot of the game, Notre Dame was just trying to drive it down the field, like slowly. And that's hard to do against Georgia. Like for 10 plus plays, that doesn't happen a lot. And, Georgia's not going to be able to do that a lot against Notre Dame either. And I think that's the other challenge is, where does Georgia find explosion in this offense with Gunner? With Carson, they could attack with the passing game. Is this now just going to be, not just going to be, is this going to be, hey, we're going to attack, you know, within a 15-yard period, of the line of scrimmage, and then guys will just make plays because they can. Let me get back to ETN. In the games he played where he was not hurt, so not Florida, not Ole Miss, not, you know, he was not hurt against Texas Tech, Tennessee Tech, but he didn't hardly play him. In the actual games he played, so Alabama, Texas twice, um, Ole Miss State, and Kentucky, in those six-ish, seven-ish games, he scored touchdowns in all of those games except the Kentucky game. That's it. So the guy makes a lot of plays. He devastated Texas, and Te Texas has a bunch of beef up front. Like they are challenging to deal with. I mean, you start looking at Ohio State's defense, Texas's defense, Georgia's defense. Like that's to some degree Penn State's. It's hard to deal with those like that size and the ability to run. ETN, it was like no big deal to him. It didn't seem like, or maybe not no big deal, but like, and then you also had him in the passing game. I think he has 7 or 8 catches for 50 plus yards. I mean, he's very productive. He's hardly played for Georgia. He's got 111 carries. That is essentially, per game. They didn't. It's not. This is not how it works. But that's like 8 carries a game. So he's hardly been used at all. And I think people are looking at this to some degree the wrong way. Everybody's want to talk about Gunner, and that's fine. I mean, that this is not that I'm stating this is not anti-Gunner. Okay, this very well could be the ETN playoff run. I mean, I've always written about Stetson season. Now, that's my term. Someone tries to steal like that. Like people try to steal Mark Rick Field from me. They're going to steal Stetson season. That came from this person here. Just saying. We've entered Stetson season. And Stetson season is when you make plays to win championships or not. Period. And that guy did. The, Stetson season might not be for a quarterback this time. It may be a running back. It may be Jalen Walker. It could be Chaz. I mean, like, there's no shortage of people that can be uber disruptive um, at times. And the other thing is too, when you're talking about multiple game, like not 2 game, you're talking about a tournament here. You're gonna have to buy quarters from players on your team. In 22, Georgia could say, all right, we're going to use Lab McConkey against Mississippi State and Oregon, and he's going to win us those games. And then we're going to use Stetson against, uh, you know, LSU and whatever, Oregon as well, but whatever game you want to say with Stetson. And then we're going to say, okay, the running backs are going to do it in this game, and then Brock is going to do it in this game. If you're a team, you can't have, we have one guy and that's our guy, or we have 2 guys and that's it. No, you need other guys to step up. You need Marcus Rosemy-Jack saying, you need to buy a game from Dylan Bell and have a Oscar Delp game. And that's what they had. The Tennessee game, you think about that. You think about Nate Frazier at the end of the season. There's all sorts of like, how do you win games? And if you're only able to win hitting forehands and serving, you're not going to go very far. You've got to be able to mix things up, hit backhands, not just to keep the ball in play, but to actually win the point or win the set or do whatever. You have to have all of the parts that you need to get the job done. And, Georgia does not have explosion like it's had in the past that is reliable. But can they get a game from Arian Smith? Can they say, oh, it's been not predictable, not unreal from him this season? Can he? Can you say, okay, well, the Notre Dame's going to be an Arian Smith game or a Dylan Bell game, like Dylan Bell against Tennessee last year? Those guys are all still there. And what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be the quarterback. It can be. It can be. It won't be noticeable as much, but it can be a Tate Ratledge game. You know, so all of these things are how you win. It's not being undisciplined like Alabama today, or you know, not relying specifically on a superstar running back like it feels like Boise is doing. Like you have to do a lot of different things, and Georgia has the capability of doing that. But instead, and I'm not criticizing here, instead we focus so much on Gunner and the cows that he has and the F-150s. He's got to come in and perform. He's got to execute, but it's not just him. He can't execute if other guys aren't executing with him and for him. Carson didn't get a lot of help at times. And I know people are past Carson now because he's now old news, but Georgia wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for Carson. And to some degree, they wouldn't be right here about Stetson Bennett, without Gunnar Stockton too. So it's everybody. And like, the other thing too that will be challenging, you know, for Notre Dame is that, Kirby adjusts quite well. And it's not just that you come in and you adjust, you got to adjust to his adjustments too. And that's the hard part. That's the hard part. It's he for all of his, hermit-like features at times, particularly with the media, he does a great job of feeling things, understanding things, watching things, adjusting things. He's not getting paid 13 million to just, to lose games. He's there to win them, to adjust, to have his team in the right mindset, and to win games like this. And, Georgia should have won the national championship last year, and they did not. I'm not sure I'd say they should win it this year. Can they steal this one? Okay. Sports isn't necessarily fair. So you go take it. Don't, hope it happens. Go take it. And we'll see if that happens tomorrow at the Superdome, New Orleans, great town. A lot of Georgia people this week and still are outnumbering the Notre Dame folks, but it's not 10-1 anymore. It's probably more like, you know, probably more like 3-1, maybe 3-2 Georgia fans over Notre Dame. So a lot of people, though. I mean, we've seen New Orleans really get inundated with a lot of people. We've been here since Sunday. It'll be Wednesday by the time y'all watch this. We've been here for a while, and it's not been very crowded. It's been quiet. And we're going to chill out Dog Post tonight, but now we're seeing a ton of people come in, and the energy in the city is here now. You can feel it, and New Orleans is a great American, not American, it's a great world city. There's no place like New Orleans in the world, so it's been a great trip. But Georgia will have a lot to say about how this trip ends for them tomorrow night at the Dome. I would get a nap tomorrow if I were y'all because it's going to be a late night, not kicking off until 8:45 Eastern. Sugar Bowl. It is what it is, the great American tradition. Thanks for watching. We'll see you after the game.